Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night. You know what that means. It is Fred Thirst Fridays here at Society Reviews, but it's also episode 3 of the Barroom podcast. I am joined once again by a couple of my co-hosts, some guys you know very, very well. We'll start off with Mr. TW, who's just settling in and getting all comfy and cozy. Why don't you give him
What's up?
an intro?
What is up, guys? TW Booty Hunter here. And basically, I just released my review of the XXX Tentacion documentary. Feel free to check that out on YouTube. And on Twitch. Well, it's gonna be like the regular schedule: Booty Hunter stream Monday, reaction stream. This time we'll be reacting to 2000s music on Tuesday, and I'm gonna be playing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game this Wednesday.
I've heard a lot about that game, so hopefully it turns out to be very, very good. And then right down on the bottom, I have my good friend, Mr. Rob Motto. How you doing today?
Yeah, doing good. Hey guys, happy Friday. I'm gonna go see Lightyear tomorrow, and then I'm gonna catch Spiderhead, I think it's called, on Netflix sometime this weekend. And then me and Society are gonna review it on Monday with I think a couple other people too.
Yep. See, Rob is happy this week because he hasn't seen those movies yet, so he has lots of bit of smile back.
Yeah.
Just yet. And then, of course, I'm here back. Society Reviews. Very, very, very good week. Very productive week. Obviously, we did the first episode of Society Reviews movies last week. We did Jurassic World, Dominion. We also did the Hustle movie, the Adam Sandler movie that was Monday night with me, Rob, and Rick. Very good feedback on that one. Hope to do it again. Wednesday, it was me and Spencer taking over, bounding into comics for about 3.5 hours, talking about a whole host of things. So here we're back here Friday night. A lot of things have happened here tonight. I mean, a lot of things have gone down this week. I'm trying to get down to pretty much everything, but usually I don't talk much about the world of pro wrestling. At least I try not to. But so many things happened that had absolutely nothing to do with the show whatsoever. You had the Jeff Hardy arrest, and then like almost a day after that, you had the whole Vince McMahon thing about possible payments and hush money and things of that nature. Then, of course, Sasha Banks, is she fired? Is she not fired? Who knows? We'll talk about one of those stories here tonight. And then there's also a couple other stories that we might be able to get to if we go things in a timely manner tonight. Because I know a lot of people want to talk about the Ezra Miller story, how it seems like every week we do this show, something else has gone down. Now, apparently, he's on the run because there's allegations that he may and may not have groomed the 12-year-old girl, and I'm not sure if there's like kidnapping allegations involved, but yeah, it's not looking very, very good for Mr. Miller at the moment. So that's all that we can post up. So we got a whole range of topics we'll talk about here tonight, but I want to start off with the one that I guess started off the week, which was Jeff Hardy. So I don't know if you guys heard about what happened with Jeff Hardy. I'm pretty sure you have, because it was the number one story pretty much all weekend. But Jeff Hardy was arrested on multiple charges after his third DUI in as many years. So essentially what happened was that there was an event that Jeff Hardy was a part of earlier this week. There's videos that have come out showing him drinking at this event. So there was obviously a lot of alcohol, a lot of booze involved. And then all of a sudden, we get a note that, hey, Jeff Hardy has been arrested yet again for a multitude of charges, which includes, of course, DUI, his third DUI in 10 years in the state of Florida. We'll get to that one in a second. Driving while having a suspended license. And, of course, prior violations and restrictions placed on his license while driving as well. Now, it was announced shortly after Jeff Hardy was arrested that he blew a .294 the breathalyzer test. Keep in mind, this was about 9:30 in the morning when this whole thing took place, and he blew that hard of a rate right off the gate. So it goes to show you just how messed up he was when this whole thing happened. He was released on bond later in the week. He paid about, I guess, $6,000 in total bond charges. That was for the DUI and the other licensing charges. So he's waiting his court date. I think it was pushed back, but because this is his third DUI in as many years, he's looking at possibly 5 years in prison in the state of Florida for being a repeated offender. So it's a pretty serious charges going on right now. Obviously, we won't know the results of that until later on. But to point out something here is that this is a guy who 6 months ago worked for the WWE, and he was fired after what they allege he was intoxicated during a match at a live show, and he ended up leaving that match during the live show. And then WWE told him to go to rehab. He refused, so they fired him promptly a couple days later. Now, there was a lot of people online, certain wrestling community fans, that were pretty much taking Jeff's side over to WWE, that didn't believe that Jeff was the problem here, even though Jeff has a very, very long history of stuff like this going down. So essentially, after that, he signs with the AEW. He goes to AEW about 3 months later. He performs there. And people start to notice that, hey, some of these problems that Jeff has had with other companies looks like he's happening with AEW as well. There was allegations that he showed up drunk to a wrestling panel that took place during WrestleMania weekend. Then about a month ago, they had their AEW pay-per-view in Las Vegas, which they teamed up. Him and his brother Matt teamed up with the Young Bucks to face, to face the Young Bucks. And there's people who noted that, Jeff didn't exactly look right during that whole thing. There's people who are saying that, Jeff looks like he was out of it. Now, people like Dave Meltzer, wrestling journalist, according to CNN, said that his demeanor was more injury related than substance abuse related. Well, then, of course, a couple of weeks after that happened, this whole thing happened, and he's been arrested yet again. So that's pretty much where we are as far as the story goes right now. Now, AEW did eventually release a statement saying that, as of this time, Jeff Hardy has been suspended without pay, and he has to go to a treatment program. And the only way that he could come back to AEW television is for him to finish that treatment program. So we don't exactly know what that's going to entail in the grand scheme of things. But obviously, Jeff has a lot of issues that he's going to have to work out moving forward. Now, I want to go ahead and show you a video here of what exactly happened to kind of give you an idea of just how bad that this looks. But before we show you the video, before I pull it up here, I want you to get you guys just your general thoughts on the Jeff Hardy situation before we move any forward. TW, obviously you know a little bit more about the pro wrestling world than Rob does. So what is your thoughts on Jeff Hardy essentially being popped once again for intoxication?
It's not surprising, man. But I mean, this is really just sad as fuck. It's like I'm not wishing for it. I hope it doesn't happen, knock on wood, but it's like I'm almost just waiting for that news report,
Right.
Fuck it,
yeah,
bro.
Well, and I mean, just to give you some feedback, Jeff Hardy was my favorite wrestler when I stopped watching WWE. I guess at the time it was WWE. Because the way he would sacrifice his body, the tables, ladders, and chairs,
the Daredevil stuff.
Yeah, it was insane, and it was almost like, and I don't want to demean Shawn Michaels, but it was almost like the second coming of Shawn Michaels in terms of, and he wasn't as big of a star as Shawn Michaels or anything, but that kind of electrifying performance in professional wrestling, that he had some amazing matches. And so it's depressing because my other favorite wrestler growing up was Razor Ramon, who just passed away, unfortunately, this year, and Scott Hall, rather. Yeah. And it's just really sad to see that he's just kind of been a mess for looks like a while.
Exactly.
All right. Before we go any further, I want to let our next guest join us, Miss Colt Classic Cage, who's joining us live and in person. Caught her at the moment when she wasn't expecting it.
How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone's having a good night.
Yeah, it's going surprisingly well.
That's great. Good to hear.
So
late. Was just a little busy.
Yeah, no problem. So you joined us right when we're essentially talking about the Jeff Hardy situation. So we essentially talked about what happened, the arrest. He blew a .294 during his arrest. Now he's been suspended indefinitely by AEW. He has to go through a drug treatment program. But the charges that he's looking at,
how bad is .294? I'm not really.
7 times over the legal limit. Something like that.
In the state of Florida, it's almost 4 times the legal limit.
4 times. Okay.
So yeah, so it's pretty bad. I mean, from everyone that I've talked to, when you start getting up to that .29, you're almost at either blackout drunk or straight up blood alcohol poisoning. Like that's how bad it was. So this wasn't just hey, I had a couple of drinks and tried to drive home. Like this was a pretty serious thing. And note with the video I'm about to show you guys here, it's only roughly about 9:30 in the morning that this happened, and apparently he had been drinking all night long. So who knows how much he had to drink or what condition he was even before he started to drink. So I wanted to basically give you any thoughts, Cassie, about the whole Jeff Hardy situation before I kind of played a video about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see that this is a consistent thing that he's done for a while now. It's like every year, every few months he gets caught drunk driving, and it's like at some point it's really no excuse, I'm assuming that he makes good money. I mean, he's a big name in the sport of wrestling. There's so many avenues for you to avoid drinking and driving, especially with someone of his means. There's no excuse for it. But at the same time, too, given he is the type of wrestler he is who has put his body at risk, I mean, we've heard the stories with a lot of wrestlers who have turned to drugs and alcohol to basically ease their pains. And when I do see Jeff Hardy wrestle, just in the way he walks, you could tell that he's dealing with something long-term issues that are chronic pain. It's fairly easy to see that. But at the end of the day, it's still no excuse to be drunk driving. He definitely is a big name. People recognize him. Young people recognize him. People look up to him as a daredevil, but you shouldn't be a daredevil on the road. I mean, I talk about it all the time. My favorite actor, James Dean. I mean, it's ironic that the last thing he ever recorded on film was telling people not to drive safely on the road before he unfortunately died untimely in a car crash. And they don't really know who was responsible for it, whether he was or not. But man, it's like, just be safe, for if not for yourself, then everyone else around you, and do the right thing, especially when you're someone like Jeff Hardy that people do look up to.
Yeah. So I wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of the background before I play this bit of the video. I jumped a little bit of ahead here, but essentially what happened was that about roughly 9 o'clock in the morning in Florida time, East Coast time, police received multiple 911 calls regarding a drunk driver on the road, saying that they were swerving on the road, that it was clearly inebriated. So police are now responding to the call, and as you can see here, they're responding to Jeff Hardy. I'll show you the exact moment when we get to Jeff's condition, to say the least. So here's some of the video here, and yeah, you hear the stories, but when you see the video, it is pretty bad. So let's go here.
Yeah, because I just saw the cop interaction when they have him pulled over.
Yeah.
But I didn't see how he was driving or anything.
Yep. So this is the police officer. Obviously has his lights on. Now, the white car that you see right here on the left-hand side, that's Jeff Hardy's car right there. And as you can see, he's already swerving to the shoulder before this whole thing gets started. And you can tell it only gets worse from here.
Oh, no.
See the cop pulls closer.
Yeah.
And now he's swerving in between two lanes here.
Oh, no.
This dude is too old for this shit. He really is. It's like, bro.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely at the end of his career, even if he has something left.
Yeah, I mean,
like, he's been doing it for 20 years, but maybe more.
So after let's see, now he's even driving like on the median here, which is bad. So the cop finally flashes his lights, and this is where the pullover starts.
Oh, there's the brake lights.
So they finally get him to pull over here. Now, it's important to note what's going to happen here because a lot of people were talking about this, and some people who I think didn't actually watch the video were complaining that, oh, the cops drew their weapon on them. I want you to pay attention to exactly what happens here. There's a reason for that.
1813, 1050.
So the cop pulls up, and Hardy's car is still on drive. You can tell by his rear lights that he hasn't put his car on park yet.
Mm-hmm.
So the cop notices that right away, and then
I-95 northbound, just north of
he knocks on the door, tells him to put the car in drive.
I'm getting an update now. It looked like he was going to pull over. 1109 is the vehicle pulled over.
Telling him to put the car in park. And you see right there, Hardy moves up, almost like he was about to drive away.
1026 Street, 1050.
And I can tell you, especially dealing with the state of Florida, what he did just there, he's very lucky he didn't get shot. Mm-hmm. Especially with the Florida State Patrol officers do not play around when it comes to stuff like that. So he's very, very fortunate.
94 1050.
By the way, like I said, there's 3 officers on him right now. Like I said, they got multiple 911 calls regarding Jeff's driving.
And, I don't want to overstate it. I know, like, Florida, it's like a stereotype that it's, crazy stuff happens there. But
yeah,
you got to imagine they're pretty busy, too.
Yeah. Especially with the amount of people that have gone there over the last couple of years.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
So they pulled Hardy out of the car, and they try to get him to sit on the hood. But like you see, he's too drunk to even sit on the hood of the car, so he just sits on the floor.
Good God Almighty.
So I believe you hear the police officer talking to him here for a second.
I feel bad for his family. I really do.
Oh, you?
You speak English? Okay. I'm Trooper Stoddard. I work for the Highway Patrol. We got several 911 codes on you.
So the cop tells him that they got several 911 calls on him, and he's trying to talk to Jeff, but obviously Jeff's not in exactly the best shape.
You know why we might have gotten some calls? You don't know? You tell me. You're all over the road. What's going on with that? Here, actually, I can't even hear you. Go ahead and have a seat up here for me. Oh, don't fall over.
And then, of course, he's wearing a Jacksonville Jaguars shirt, which, if you don't know, Tony Khan is his father is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He also owns AEW as well. So, another bad look for everyone involved here.
Yeah, just have a seat. Stand over there, Trooper.
This dude could barely stand up, and he's behind the wheel of a car. That is a weapon. A car is a weapon in the wrong hands, period. It's disgusting.
Now, keep in mind, at this point, we don't know that he's going to blow like a .294, whatever it was that he blew. But,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Okay. Where are you coming from? North Carolina? And where is your final destination? So you're coming from North Carolina, going to North Carolina? I got you. You have an average driver?
So he tells the cop that he's coming from North Carolina and going to North Carolina.
License on you? Is it in the car? Where is it at in the car?
So Hardy tells the cop that his license is in the car, but he doesn't know where his license is, which is obviously a red flag.
Yep. There.
You do that fake pat in your pants. It's just like, oh.
And another question that people had with this situation is that Hardy was driving with a suspended license, so how did he get access to a rental car?
Oh boy.
Could it be in your bag, maybe? Do you usually put your wallet in your bag, maybe, like a backpack? No, but I can get in there. Just because we're not.
So essentially, what happens here? He doesn't have his wallet on him. So they want to get him off the highway, obviously, because they don't want to get like clipped by a car. So they move him about like a mile down to near a gas station for him to do a field sobriety test. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead here. And so this is them about, I say, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, and they're trying to do a field sobriety test. Keep in mind, it's only about 9:45 in the morning when this is happening. So this is not late at night. This is even afternoon.
Okay, good deal. All right. So we're going to use this white line. Pretty flat, level surface. Nothing you got to jump over, right? Would we agree?
I don't know. If you're that drunk,
You
wouldn't
agree
you
with
just
that
be like,
statement?
"Hey, man, just take me to jail"? Like,
You
I'm
agree
just,
that
I
this
give
is a
up.
pretty straight line?
Right.
These people, he's so delusional. He thinks he could probably get away with it.
What I want you to do is put the left foot line in front of
I mean, he
you.
was delusional
Okay.
enough to get behind the
Okay.
wheel of a car
Then I
in his
want you to
current
put your
state.
right foot
Like,
between
here's
your
the
right
thing.
and your toe.
If the cops are asking you to do a field sobriety test, there's a good shot you're already going to jail. Like that's the thing. It's like
Right.
there's no like once you're in doing the field sobriety test, you're pretty much already on your way to jail. So you might as well just take the cuffs and get in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Your left, just like this. Then put your arms down to your side. Wait for further instructions. Okay, don't start until I tell you to begin. When I tell you to begin, I want you to take 9 heel-to-toe steps down the line. They're going to look like this. Okay? They're going to look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 9. So you're going to count each of those steps out
This
loud.
just reminds me of one of my
On
favorite
that
bits,
second
though,
step,
from like
Mhm.
Ron White,
you're gonna
where
take a bunch
he's
of small
talking about
steps,
being drunk in
and then you're
public.
gonna return back down
Yeah.
the line.
It's like, I
9 more
can't
steps.
do the field sobriety
You
test
understand those
sober
instructions?
because I can't
Yeah.
count
Would you like
count
any
the
part of them
alphabet
repeated?
backwards.
Yep.
Okay, you may begin.
Oh yeah.
And you know it's bad when he has to take a deep breath before taking the first step.
Golly.
He's already failing.
Yeah. It would have probably helped for him to put his arms like a little bit lower, like the cop was doing.
Yeah.
All right. What's that? Okay. Well, we still have a couple more to do. We'll see.
Jump ahead
When
a
your eyes
little
are
bit
closed,
here.
it's closed, so the sun won't even bug you. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So now the cop's like reaching for his cuffs. He's pretty much know that this is
All
over.
right, go ahead and
Yeah.
relax. All right, so now put your arms down to your side. Close your head. Put your head backwards, just like this. When I tell you to begin, and only when I tell you to begin, I want you to start counting. In your head, not out loud.
Simon Says.
Yeah. So here's where they go ahead and just cuff him.
Yeah.
But slower. You're a bigger man. Hey, Rook, give me another set of cuffs, please.
And the cops are asking for another set of cuffs. And a lot of people were saying you forget just how big Jeff Hardy is. Like he's like 6'2", I think like 230
Oh,
maybe.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he
Yeah.
was smaller than that.
Oh.
No,
Yeah,
he's
no.
pretty above
Like
average.
you would think he was smaller, but you have to remember like back in the day he was always against like bigger guys.
Oh,
Yeah, like Edge and Christian and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's easy to look small when you're always facing guys that are like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, exactly.
Good? Okay.
It's a shame because this guy's destroying his legacy. He's making his brother look bad, and from what I know, Matt Hardy's pretty
Yeah.
much cleaned up his act.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
So that's pretty much the video there. He goes to jail. Then I've already given you guys the details. So after seeing the video for yourself, like what do you guys think of the whole situation? I'll start with Cassie since she came in a bit later.
I'm tired of seeing this.
She
You know,
freeze.
Am I frozen? Or am I good?
There, you're back now.
All right. No, I was just saying that I've seen regular people go to prison for doing this less times. And I keep seeing him do the same thing. And it's like, it's a shame because he's destroying his legacy. I mean, how can you respect a dude like this? You know, I don't know if he thinks this shit is cool, but I mean, I'm the type of person that supports people breaking the rules, but not this type of shit. Like, this is whack. And if he thinks this is cool, he really needs to reevaluate himself. It's pathetic. I'm tired of seeing it. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a kid we're talking about here. This is a guy who's 44, 45 years old now.
Exactly.
So, Rob, what do you think?
I mean, it's pretty reckless because it's not just like breaking the rules, but he's endangering people and out on the road and stuff. And it's sad. Like I said, he was a favorite wrestler of mine when I watched. I think he was a great performer. So it's really sad to see him at this point.
TW, what do you think of the whole deal?
Yeah, like I said before, it's just like, man. I mean, honestly, it's just like completely. I can't say it's destroyed my faith in wrestling because I've just stopped caring about that shit long ago. And due to this and other news that we probably won't get into on this podcast, it's just like giving me more reasons not to watch. Plus, I got a real weird realization thinking about this and seeing this. Sabu, is in doing better than he is, and this is a guy who's done way worse shit to his body over the years. Freaking Sabu,
the scars
is doing better than he is.
Yeah, He's still wrestling Sabu because I know Sabu from ECW.
Oh no, he's retired.
Oh, okay.
I don't even think Sandman has been in jail as many times as Jeff Hardy has.
Yeah, Sandman has like notorious drinking issues, but he doesn't have as many DUIs as Jeff Hardy does. That's for sure.
That is fucking
wow.
It's crazy. Like, what's gonna stop this? Sending him to prison? Like, is that what he wants? You know,
I mean, that's the only thing that they haven't tried yet.
Family,
so that's the only thing
he's got kids. You know, he has a brother that does care about him. I know Matt does care about him, but at some point, it's like, what can you do with somebody that doesn't want to help themselves?
Exactly.
And I have people like that. I have to question my own family, and I'm sure everyone has that one person in their family. How can I help someone that doesn't want to help themselves? And from what I see, Jeff Hardy really doesn't want to help himself.
Yep. So one final point here before we move on. You know, so obviously Jeff had these issues 6 months ago before he even signed with AEW. Then he goes to AEW. As we said earlier, a lot of fans just assumed that WWE was at fault and not Jeff Hardy. Do you think that it was foolish for AEW to sign a guy that clearly had issues leaving his last company to sign him in not only 3 months after signing him, now he has to deal with like this? So it's like you literally picked up a headache and a problem that you didn't have to do at all.
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, I don't know. I think somebody else is going to have to be held liable for this shit too. Whoever gave him license to be able to rent a car and stuff like that and drive it. It's just like, no, there's probably going to be other people that are going to have to be liable for this shit as well.
Yep. Definitely.
I just have to wonder at what point does a company feel? I mean, obviously they don't want to be responsible on a legal level because they, owing money for being negligent. But it's just like, how do you sleep at night? Obviously on $1 million homes, but and I have no reason to like Tony Khan because I'm a Tennessee Titans fan and I hate the Jacksonville Jaguars. But otherwise, it's like I don't care, And that's Shad Khan anyway. It's not Tony, but
I mean, like I said, relationship to it. As I said, this keeps happening time and time again. Like I said, the only thing that they haven't tried at this point is jail time. And with the charges he's looking at now, because this is his third violation in 10 years, he could be looking up to a maximum of 5 years in prison in the state of Florida. So it depends on how well his lawyers are at this point, because it keeps going again and again and again. And hopefully it doesn't get to a point where we have like a Sunny situation, and the only thing that's going to stop this guy is for him actually to kill somebody. Because to be that drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning driving around is just absolutely like ridiculous. There's really just no excuse for it, but it is what it is, sadly enough. But I think that's the end of the Jeff Hardy talk and maybe the wrestling talk for this day. So let's go from one legal idiot to another. Let's jump into Amber Heard, because Amber Heard absolutely refuses to take the L that she suffered at the hands of Johnny Depp a few weeks ago. So she made a statement on social media saying, proclaiming her innocence. And even that was kind of like, okay, look, you lost, move on. I'm hearing things that Johnny Depp isn't even like really worried about the $8 million that Amber Heard owns her. Like, he just wants to clear his name. That was the whole point of the trial. But Amber Heard is still doubling and tripling down on everything that she said throughout the course of the last few weeks.
Oh my God.
And you have to ask yourself, if Johnny Depp was any more of a petty person, could he take Amber Heard to court again over the things she said? Because she's doubling down on the stuff that was already proven in a court of law to be defamation, and she's standing by everything that she said. So Amber Heard went and did an interview with NBC News on a Today Show. I think it was a few days ago. Yeah. And she, like I said, she's doubling down on pretty much everything that she said. So I wanted to play a couple of clips here and give you a quick rundown of what she said. Here on the article, it says she decries social media's impact on the trial, saying that you can't tell me that you think that this has been fair. So she's blaming social media for her losing the trial, because obviously during the trial there was a whole lot of talk about there's a whole lot of mocking her. I mean, as we realized, there's people that were pretty being mean on the internet to her, especially if you were on Twitter. You heard the hashtags "me poo" and all the stuff about Amber Turd. There's so many jokes being around on there. So she's saying that because of her negative reaction on social media, that the jury couldn't possibly have been influenced to make a fair decision. So she's literally blaming the jury, saying that, well, they weren't impartial because of social media. So what she says here is that, I don't care what anyone thinks about me, what judgments you want to make about what happened in the privacy of my own home, in my marriage behind closed doors. She said, I don't presume the average person should know these things, so I don't take it personally. But even someone who I'm sure I am deserving of all the hate and vitriol, even if you think that I'm lying, you still shouldn't look at me in the eye. I said, you still couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that you think social media has been a fair representation. You cannot tell me that you cannot tell me that you think that has been fair. Amber Heard says that she did not blame the jury for not siding with her, acknowledging that Johnny Depp was a beloved character and people feel like they know him. Adding that, how could they, after listening to 3.5 weeks of testimony about how I was a non-credible person, but not believe a word that came out of my mouth. So she wanted to make it clear that she wasn't blaming the jury, but she was basically blaming the jury. So I have a few video clips here to play some of the things that she said on the Today Show. So this one is kind of like a run through of what she said here. Let me pull this one up. So we'll play a couple of videos of what she said.
Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying burn the witch, death to Amber. After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans who were vocal, energized.
Can you put into words how that felt?
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity. I felt less than human every single day.
So that was obviously her talking about playing the victim, saying that, how bad the trial was for her and how she felt personally. Now, she can go on there and say that, but here's where people start to get into, okay, you're starting to get back into legal trouble again, because on this next clip that I'm about to play, she basically doubles down on what was already proven in court to be not only be a lie, but be a lie with malice. So let's play the second video here.
More than a week.
Full screen it and play.
It's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
How could it? Surreal and difficult, in part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
It's been about more than a week.
So there you heard her. She says that despite losing the case, she stands by everything that she said that happened with Johnny Depp. And I'm going to get to that in a second, why that's a big no-no. But I also wanted to play this last clip here. And this is a clip that had a lot of people going, what exactly are you talking about? When she said this during the interview.
The Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer.
The Depp lawyer.
Yeah, she actually said that in an interview with NBC News.
Hands.
Where she's
they
trying
were
to
scissor hands.
Yes. It's not even a recent reference. Like, why would you pick that reference? Of all things that Johnny Depp has done, you got to go back 30 years.
I don't remember him for that role.
And it was Tim Burton. Tim Burton made us believe that he had fingers for hands, whatever. You know what I mean? It was like Johnny Depp is just an actor and whatever. But this very bizarre sort of thing to turn to, and I can't help but laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But going back to the real point, the second point that she made, how she went on record on television to say that she stand by everything she said. Now, I don't know if you guys know the law, but usually if you lose a case in that fashion, your lawyers will tell you, say nothing. Say nothing. Because like I said, what she said during the course of that interview, if Johnny Depp was as petty as probably some other people would be, he would have a case right now to try her again, because she's literally doubling down on the stuff that was already proven in court were lies. And not only she should do that, she went to the media once again to repeat those same lies once again. So she's open. She's literally opening up stuff now. Like, people are already saying that, Johnny Depp could sue her again if he wanted to at this point for the things she says. Like, I want to start with TW here. Like, what do you think about Amber Heard just absolutely refusing to take the L on this whole situation?
I think it's just delusional. That's all it is. It's like you're trying to play the victim. It's like I was treated less than human. I'm like, bitch, you crapped in his bed. Maybe you shouldn't have done that. Like, it's like you were treated less than human because you acted less than human. Like, man, you don't got nobody to blame but yourself. And this is one thing that makes me excited about seeing her take the L, even if she's refusing to, is this, I hope, goes down a long line of just showing a lot, not all, but some of these broads who lie about these abuse against, and all that shit against these guys, that, like, you can't just do it and think you're going to get away with it. The Me Too movement is slowly dying. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rob, what do you think about what you hear? Because I know you've heard a lot regarding the last week about this whole situation. So what are just your thoughts of Amber Heard just doubling down on stupid?
I didn't care. I mean, first of all, I didn't care about this case until I kind of realized it was this symbolic Me Too case where it was just like, okay, we're going to get to the bottom of everybody gets to have their day in court. You know, you can accuse people of doing this, that, and the other, but until you prove it or you show some kind of evidence to back up those claims, it's just kind of like he said, she said. And so this was a case just that it wasn't played out on social media. Yes, people were talking about it. Yes, there were cameras in the courtroom, but I'm pretty sure the jury isn't allowed to go on to social media. I'm pretty sure they were sequestered.
Yeah, cool.
Now, maybe they weren't because it's a civil case. I honestly don't know. However, that's usually the case. You're not allowed to look at newspapers when a trial is going on or social media, things that would unduly influence you. And so they listened to the facts of the case. Both attorneys were pretty rigorous with their questioning on the stand, and they came to the conclusion that Amber Heard was full of shit. And so that's that case closed. And then she wants to go in front with, a female anchor thinking she's going to get a softball interview, and it's just another Jussie Smollett. It's this thing where it's like, we don't really believe what you're saying. And
just a real quick point on that too. Keep in mind that NBC also does not want to be sued down the line for furthering any of her claims as well. So they pretty much have no choice but to challenge her. Like I said, if Johnny Depp wanted to sue again, that interview is going to be used as evidence in the court of law. So NBC's like, hey, look, we don't want to get caught up in your crap again. So we're definitely not going to go down with you. So
and no offense to Johnny Depp. Okay, I think he's a good actor. I don't like his quote unquote performance on the stand where he's like mumbling because I don't, it's a little foggy. It was the morning, whatever, but it was just like, it wasn't a great performance. He laid out the facts with his team.
Yeah. There's really no argument that Johnny Depp's a better actor than Amber Heard. And as you can see from that interview, she didn't exactly have the best acting chops either. So, Cassie, what do you think of the Amber Heard just downward spiral?
I thought she was crazy, and this just further proves that she is. I mean, she clearly can't determine fiction with Edward Scissorhands and her real life case. I don't really know what else to say besides this person has gone unchecked in her delusions for years now. And now when it's finally when the shit came home to roost, now it's, oh man, everyone's against me. Everything was going my way. It's like the same thing with the Me Too movement. It's like it was okay when it was in their favor, but now that it's like, oh, the same kind of shit that the people they hate had to deal with, whether they were guilty or not guilty of whatever they were accused of, now they have to deal with the same kind of heat. And it's like, oh, I shouldn't have to deal with this kind of heat. You brought it to this level. So now you're gonna have to deal with the reality that you believe that the mob out there should be allowed to go out there and get you. Now you got to deal with the reality that you brought it to that level. Have fun with it. This is the shit that you thought was okay until now, when you dealing with your hands in the fire. I don't care. I don't feel bad for you. I'm sorry. Too bad. Figure it out.
Quick little shout out to Amari Parker, who says, "What's up, everyone? Amber Heard is killing the Me Too movement." Yeah, because you have to remember, this case was pretty much used to jumpstart the Me Too movement when it was at its peak. This is the one where they were going around. It's like, yeah, we need to go after all the powerful men in Hollywood, and Johnny Depp is one of them because look, this is what Amber Heard alleged that he did, and then, like I said, he lost his deals with Disney, lost his deals with Warner Brothers, so it did affect him negatively. And now, like I said, the whole thing that he cares about is getting his reputation back because of how badly Amber Heard is damaged. So now, here we are a few years later, and now her reputation has taken a hit because people are figuring out that, hey, she was pretty much full of it the entire time. Yet for some reason, the progressives in Hollywood believed her without fault, without question. So now she's essentially going through the same thing that Johnny Depp went through, even though, let's be honest, she's really not even going through it as hard as Johnny Depp went through it, because there was talks that, they're going to cut her out of the Aquaman movie. There's been no official word that she's been cut out of that movie at all. So they probably still are going to move forward with her in that film altogether. So, I mean, you have to ask yourself, what has she really lost? I mean, people are, more negative towards her than they were before, but they weren't exactly that positive towards her a few years before this happened anyway. She wasn't like she was a bright star, not bright star, but a well-liked star before this. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, her current net worth is negative $8 million. So,
oh yes.
so, but I'm, again, I still think she's going to get work. I don't think that, yes, there is a negative association, but it's not like when Hollywood decided to just I don't know, like when Mel Gibson still struggles to get work, but he's directing stuff and he's in stuff occasionally.
He's doing more like independent stuff.
But when Hollywood, and a bad example, Kevin Spacey, but when they decide they're done with you, it's kind of it's abrupt. And so I think that she's still going to get work. I think she'll be fine. It's just, the fans that want to see Johnny in the next Pirates movie hate her.
Yeah. Or I guess if you were one of those people who want to see him in Fantastic Beasts, even though who wants to see anyone in Fantastic Beasts?
But here's the thing. They were going to do Margot Robbie take over for Jack Sparrow in that franchise.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's a terrible idea. Stop trying to do the female version of the already successful character. Just create your own thing, as Bill Burr says.
Yeah. You could have easily just done a spinoff. You could have done like your own thing, but they don't think of expanding already existing universe. They just want to take over for what's already been built. Like that's their whole mentality.
Yeah.
And so real quick on this one before we move on. No, everything that's going on with Amber Heard over the last few weeks obviously hasn't been in the good light, but somehow she's not the biggest headache that Warner Brothers has to deal with right now. So I think to myself, who's hiring these people at Warner Brothers, and shouldn't somebody be fired over this? Because you think if you were running like a Subway and you just hired a bunch of ex-cons and then they robbed the joint one day, wouldn't there be questions as the person who hired them in the first place?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think that would happen? So it's how is someone in Warner Brothers getting away with getting the people that they have right now? It's I just don't understand it.
Well, to be fair, Ezra Miller was hired back in 2015 because that's when the original, what was it, Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice came out in 2016, and so they filmed it the previous year. And so, and again, he was really good in this movie called We've Got to Talk About Kevin, where he's like this sociopathic nightmare of a teenager who ends up committing acts of violence. So it's oh, well, that probably just sounds more like who Ezra Miller is, considering his recent activities.
He related very personally.
Yeah. Like I said, we might roll back around to Ezra Miller if we have enough time, but I wanted to get to a subject regarding Jason Whitlock and the Daily Wire. Now, obviously, Jason Whitlock, if you guys don't know, he used to be on Fox Sports. He's well known for his very controversial opinions about the world of sports. He then moved over to Blaze TV, where he talks about sports and politics and culture as well. So he had to take earlier this week about the Daily Wire because they just released the movie that Terror in the Prairie with Gina Carano. And he made some very interesting comments, which has pretty much gotten divided with a lot of people, especially on the right. So I wanted to play this one for you and kind of get your thoughts, because I think there's going to be a lot of mixed responses towards this. But I want to play a part of what he said, and then there's another section that I want to play as well. But I'm going to let him make his case here, and then tell me what you guys think about the Daily Wire and kind of the current state of Hollywood.
The Daily Wire has a brand. You're betraying that brand. People are bringing expectations into your content projects. And as it relates to Terror on the Prairie, and then if you go back to the other movie they put out in the past year, I think Shut In.
Run, Fight, Hide. Never mind.
To the movie that I think they were loosely involved with or involved with the promotion, Run, Hide, Fight. So Run, Hide, Fight had a female heroine, hero, I think some 17-year-old girl. Shut In, which I watched because I support the Daily Wire. I have a subscription. I support these guys. Shut In, I watched that. That's some woman and her child trapped in a house, in a closet, basically avoiding the brutality of her drugged up ex-husband and her super drugged up and wicked husband's best friend. And so the Daily Wire has been involved in 3 movie projects, and all of them have female heroes. Just think that through. And then I want you to think about fearless, and this army and this movement that we're trying to start here and why it's important. This is about inspiring and raising up men to live up to their biblical responsibility. We're not doing that. And the Daily Wire isn't putting out movie content that inspires men. They're putting out movie content that exaggerates the physical heroism of women. And so I want you to think about this.
So there's actually two parts to this argument here. So I want to actually stop here because the first part of that argument is essentially saying that despite the fact that the Daily Wire is getting into the movie business and they've essentially created, or not really created, but kind of produced a few films. Like, I think this one with Gina Carano was like really the first one that they've had their true like fingerprints on. The other ones were kind of other productions that they bought and took over.
Right.
So what he was saying here on this first argument is that they're supposed to be, the Daily Wire is supposed to be an alternative to what you see in Hollywood, right? They're supposed to be fighting the Hollywood establishment by creating their own films. And what he's complaining about is the fact that instead of challenging Hollywood or creating a counterculture to Hollywood, they're essentially just doing exactly what Hollywood does, which is create the same type of content that you would see in movie theaters today. He says that their films are all female led. They're all about overcoming bad men and things of that nature. Like, those are the same type of films that you see in Hollywood. So I want to ask the first part of his argument. Do you think that there's any merit to the fact that the Daily Wire is not a true alternative to what you're seeing in Hollywood today? And then I'll get back to the second part of his argument when I replay the next video. So the first part of it, do you think that the Daily Wire is failing or succeeding at being a alternative to Hollywood? And I'll start with Rob, since he does the movie thing. So,
well, I'll say this. So I agree that they're not really succeeding at being an alternative. However, his actual issues with like it being female led or female hero, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's great fucking there's great movies that are female led, that are older, or that but that don't have a like slavish ideological bent to the progressive or the collectivist mentality. You have plenty of like really strong heroes, like revenge movies, westerns, genre movies, where like I said, revenge movies, where you have these great, exciting, entertaining portrayals, and then just movies in general about life that aren't genre movies or whatever. Like, it's okay to make things that Hollywood used to make that they don't make anymore. I think that's probably what the Daily Wire is more trying to do. It's trying to compete on a level that said, hey, we miss the 35 to 50 people being back in the theaters. Like, let's give them something to watch.
I agree with that. Cassie, what do you think of his statements, what he said in the first part of that video? Do you agree with him or do you disagree with him?
Well, so I kind of feel similarly to Rob. Like, there are great films where there are female heroines, both like within my lifetime and before. But I do have to agree with one thing. It's not necessarily what he said. It was what's in the actual like headline, whatever, of his segment, was that conservatives definitely aren't the answer. That's why I'm a libertarian. These not for nothing. These people, I've given up on them. To me, I think the left is evil, but conservatives are the people in the way of stopping them. That's what I firmly believe. They don't go far enough. They're the biggest losers, and they're in the way of any success of liberty. That's why I hate conservatives, to be honest with you, if I'm completely honest. And I wish they just get the fuck out of the way. But when it comes to basically creating a counterculture, I do support it. I have to support it. Because if we don't, then what else is there? I wish that this man who wants to see more male-led, strong, empowering for men like related movies to try and work out a deal with the Daily Wire, because this shit ain't easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy for any company. We're fighting entire industries, in entire, we're fighting half the country along with people that own all of this and has everything against them. So if this dude really believes in this, why don't you talk to the Daily Wire and see if you could help fund something? That's how I feel about it. Put your money where your mouth is. Maybe y'all could work together. Maybe you could work something out so that y'all can both get what you want. The Daily Wire and he himself, or whichever he works for. I don't know if he's in. To be honest, I don't know this individual, but work together. I would love to see it. Anything to support counterculture. I'm like the anti-establishment. I want to hit the establishment in any way I can.
Don't they compete though? Doesn't the Blaze and the Daily Wire, aren't they competitors with one another technically?
I mean, they're different right-wing outlets, so I mean,
Right.
I guess just by that standard, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If they attack
Ben
each
Shapiro.
other, they're gonna destroy each other. You have too much writing against you to think like that, and I have to consider whether these companies really care. Because at the end of the day, I don't think Ben Shapiro really cares, because there's stories he could have broken that he held back on just because it didn't really help him personally. So I have to question whether these companies really care about fighting what they claim is the enemy.
I'm glad you made that point, because we're definitely going to go back to that one in a second. But I want to get TW's thoughts on this whole thing. So, do you think that the Daily Wire is viewed as a true alternative, or you think they're just doing the same thing that Hollywood's doing?
It's just kind of the same thing, because honestly, before, like, I didn't really know much about the Daily Wire going into this, but I think that shit like that is kind of the reason why. If they're just basically doing the same thing that Hollywood's already doing, then, well, what's the point, of you? When, people could just look to Hollywood and get that same damn thing, which is like more accessible and more well known and all that. And as for the dude, he seems very old school in his views. I was very confused in like the very biblical responsibilities of men. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean, man?
Yeah.
Like,
old school
guy.
Christian conservative. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, fuck that shit.
So there's one thing that I think that is missed, because he's saying that, the type of content that the Daily Wire is producing so far, which has been the three like main movies, have all been like female led. Now, obviously, when you look at the movie, I think, did we watch the trailer for The Princess last week? Did any of you guys see that one, or was that with the Bounding in the Comics? Do you guys remember? It was a Hulu movie with like Joey King, where she's okay. So obviously, when we're talking about like woke Hollywood garbage, that's the type of stuff that we're talking about, right? The stuff that this 20-year-old 100-pound white girl is just gonna beat up a bunch of men because she's an awesome princess and she's great, right? So Whitlock is looking at it from the perspective of, okay, well, if that's the type of stuff that Hollywood's producing, then what type of stuff are you producing that's any different than that? Now, I can understand him looking at it and seeing basically the same thing, but I do like what Rob's point is, just because something has a female lead-led character doesn't automatically make it woke either, because obviously I've been watching a whole lot of stuff from the 1980s. There were a lot of cult classics in the 1980s that had female-led characters and female-led protagonists that weren't considered, woke and progressive even for those days. Like, those are the type of movies that progressives of these days would look at and look down on, because it didn't portray the certain message that they would like. So the only thing I really disagree with him there is the idea that just having a female led character that's overcoming men is a woke idea. Now, like I said, you definitely see that in certain Hollywood productions that are absolutely awful, but that doesn't automatically make it such. Now, there's a second part of his argument here, and this is specifically with the Daily Wire, and he's saying that because the Daily Wire is more of a political organization, they care more about politics than they do about culture. So I'll let him talk about this part right here.
It's being more disruptive
than
on the Prairie and the Daily Wire and the movies they're pumping out. I want you just to think about this. Hollywood is being more disruptive than the Daily Wire. Top Gun Maverick came straight out of Hollywood, and it's more disruptive than Terror on the Prairie. Just Think that through. Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise, the biggest box office star in Hollywood. A Scientologist. The whole industry out there in Hollywood has been captured by wokeness and the feminist movement. And they come out with a movie more disruptive, more pleasing, disruptive than a movie put out by the Daily Wire.
So I wanted to talk about that point. So he's obviously comparing Top Gun, which I think just broke about $800 million worldwide. I think it's on pace for $900 million. Now, I don't think it's going to reach $1 billion. It'll probably fall just a bit short. But obviously, that's the number one movie that everyone's saying to go see, right? Because everyone goes see the movie because they like Tom Cruise. They like how it pays homage to the original without destroying its legacy, things of that nature. So when you compare that with the movie that obviously everyone went down to Nashville and go check out the Terror on the Prairie, and is Terror on the Prairie, like I said, is that any different than what you're seeing from Hollywood? And if Hollywood's coming out with more counterculture stuff than you are, then isn't that a problem for your brand? So do you agree with the second part of his argument? And I'll start with Cassie since she went nuclear on the last one. I guess we can go with her again here.
I think that this is the type of person that's been so affected by how far media has gone that giving them anything is just like you're bad. And it's like, you know, and while I do take like, you know, very firm stances on stuff, I mean, to say that it's bad to have women in lead positions in any way, or just people of, you know, different cultures, like that has to be a thing, you know, because that's normal. There are people, there are women in the military, there are Hispanics, Black people, people of all races and ethnicities that do represent our culture, and they should be there.
Especially in Southern California.
Yeah, no doubt. So to me, I think he's just kind of the type of person that's the other extreme of the situation. I don't really know him very much. I haven't really listened to this person, but it seems like any little thing is like SJW, and it's like you can't look at it that way. That's just too much, you know, like as long as they don't have these messages that are beating me over the head, then I could ride with it for the most part, you know. You know, the only thing that's off limits is if the director or the actors involved were caught messing around with little kids. That to me, that's the most important thing at the end of the day. But when it comes to this, you got to allow people of different backgrounds to be involved in this stuff. That's just normal, because it's not just one, you know, one color. You have to include everyone, because it's just that represents our people. Like, especially in America, where like I come across different people every single day. So you have to be realistic about it. To me, this is unrealistic. And the other side, like, it's just the reverse side of the moon type of deal, you know?
Yeah. TW, what do you think? And then I'll go with Rob.
Oh yeah, literally just the same thing she said, man. She took the words almost right out of my mouth. It's like, that was the one thing that I was noticing the whole time, is that dude was like so fucking fixated on like, it's just like, oh, like, well, like, oh, SJW this, SJW that. It's like, they got a black pilot, they got a Hispanic pilot, they got a female pilot. Would you rather it just be a bunch of pasty white boys, my nigga?
Right. I mean, like,
bro. It's like, yeah, he just kept going on and on about that. I'm like, bro, what about the quality of the actual movie? That's what should matter.
And that's the thing too, that just real quick before I get Robin, is that's one thing about the film too. If you actually seen the film, like I said, they don't like follow any of like the woke storytelling like whatsoever. So I mean, if your only caveat is that okay, well, you're gonna have a slightly more diverse cast than normal, but we'll pretty much keep all the agenda shit out of it, then it's like, okay, fair trade off. Like, what's the issue there? I mean, as long as you're not, pro to tell me about Black Lives Matter and drag queens and all the other stuff that we see in all these other movies, it's like, okay, I'll take a couple of black people and a few Hispanics in the film. Like, I don't care much. But so let me ask you this, Rob. Is that it seems like he wants more of what you would kind of think of when you get from like a peer flicks type thing, like some of those like old like Christian movie style type movies that he wants to produce more of those. But isn't quite the issue is that people complain that there's too much politics in their movies, that they just want to enjoy a film. So I understand wanting to have like more right leaning films, but you can't just come out and just produce nothing but right leaning films, because essentially all you're doing is you're producing the complete opposite spectrum of movies that Hollywood is doing, and that's not going to gain you any more people than normal, especially since Hollywood has the marketing distribution machine behind them. So what do you kind of think of his argument there?
Right, and that's kind of what I've been thinking since I listened to it. It's a disingenuous argument because you're comparing a Paramount Pictures Tom Cruise, the last movie star, basically, project that they've been sitting on because they thought it would be pretty good, waiting, past COVID, all this stuff, movie, big tentpole, big spectacle-laden movie compared to a Daily Wire genre movie that cost probably $15 million. And, they scraped it together. I don't know how, smaller, more niche movie. And so the comparison is just not equal whatsoever. The idea that the Top Gun sequel is subversive is hilarious. It's like, it goes against the trend in Hollywood to tell these overly ideological victim narratives about how awful the world of men imposed on everybody else is. And yes, we're sick and tired of it, not to mention these are not good movies. And that is the key. Is it a good movie? Usually if it's interlaced with a lot of ideology and it beats you over the head with its message and it's shouting at you from a pedestal of platitudes, that's the kind of shit people can't stand. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you can judge movies appropriately, whether they're entertaining or not, you hate that shit because smart people hate being dictated to. Exactly. And so I understand what he's fighting against because one of my favorite podcaster is this guy named Bret Easton Ellis. He wrote American Psycho, Less Than Zero, and he's super knowledgeable on movies. But he kind of woke me up to this whole thing going on with Hollywood with all the woke stuff. But it's like he loves the Top Gun movie because it's just pure spectacle and it's incredibly well crafted. And that's what people love. People love people who are competent at their jobs. And I think movie making at its best is that it's a product that people really love and want, and you just got to make it. And I feel like Hollywood has really suffered the last decade, really. So hopefully they can turn it around. But obviously the woke shit's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Top Gun. It's like I look at it, and it's like it's not that as much as anti-woke, because it's not like it's actually attacking woke culture or anything like that. Yeah. What they did is that they just made a straightforward movie. And because we're so used to getting the complete opposite out of Hollywood, it's almost like we were taken aback by, oh, wow, that was just a straight up 2-hour action movie that I actually really enjoyed. And there wasn't no overarching message beating me over the head. I just sat there, enjoyed the film, looked at the special effects, and then that's what a lot of people took home. So I think that, like you said, the thing that they were trying to being more counterculture than Hollywood. It wasn't like they were trying to be counterculture. They just did a straightforward film. And I think part of the reason, the main reason probably that it came out like that was because Tom Cruise was involved with it. Because as we all know, Tom Cruise is pretty much completely hands-on on every single film that he does, from, the scenes, the acting. He's pretty much the director, writer, and everything when it comes to his film. So he saw a vision for the movie. And then he didn't want the studio to essentially interrupt that vision or mess with it in any kind of way. So because he had so much control over it, he produced a film that a lot of people loved and enjoyed, especially if you like the first Top Gun movie. There's no reason not to like this one. So, yeah, like I said, there's that part. Then there's also the argument that you don't just want to create, you don't want the Daily Wire to just do nothing but pure like right wing documentaries and Christian films and like nothing else. Because
Yeah.
that would be an alternative to what Hollywood presents, but you already have like smaller companies doing that right now anyway. So I mean, just being another small indie doing that doesn't really isn't going to like affect anything. Like you do have to create like new blockbusters essentially, because what we complain about all the time that they're just remaking everything and trying to like strike lightning in the bottle, right? Even with Top Gun, it's basically just a sequel to a film that we saw over 30 years ago. I mean, you need creators to create the next big thing that people are actually going to be gripped into, and that's not going to be your typical Christian movie. It's not going to be your typical right wing political film. It's going to have you're going to have to get creators that that will put their politics aside to be like, I want to create the most entertaining film available, and that's really what's most important. So I can kind of see where he's going with that argument, but I think there's a lot of holes in his argument in general that you can just poke holes into it and say that I think you're going a little too far the other way on that topic. So any final notes on that one so we move on to our next one?
Not at all. I'm good.
All right, then. So now we're going to stay in the world of Hollywood and filmmaking. So obviously we talked with Whitlock possibly going too far one way with his arguments on film. So let's talk about another actor going too far the other way, and that's Tom Hanks. Because Tom Hanks came out earlier this week and he denounced the idea of straight actors playing gay roles in movies. So this article came out earlier this week. I think he released the statement on Wednesday. So keep in mind, this is Tom Hanks, who in 1993 won his first Academy Award, first back-to-back Academy Awards in the film Philadelphia, where he played a man who was dying of AIDS. So the whole film was supposed to be about, raising awareness about, AIDS in the gay community and stuff like that. So he played a gay man with AIDS in the film. And over the last couple of years, you've heard this narrative within left-wing progressive outlets that, straight people shouldn't play, gay roles. And you also hear them say that, well, if a role is made for, a black person or a Hispanic, then there has to be a black or Hispanic cast in that role and other things of that nature. Basically saying that the actor must exactly match the characteristics of the character. So Tom Hanks goes on an interview, I think it's with the New York Times, and he talks about how modern audiences, quote unquote, wouldn't accept the inauthenticity of a straight man playing a gay guy. And he says that could a straight man do what I did in Philadelphia now? No, and rightly so. The whole point of Philadelphia was don't be afraid. One of the reasons people weren't afraid of that movie was because I was playing a gay man. We're beyond that now. I don't think people would accept the inauthenticity of a straight guy playing a gay guy. Tom Hanks added, it's not a crime. It's not a boo-hoo that someone would say that we're going to demand more of a movie in the modern realm of authenticity. Do I sound like I'm being preachy? I don't mean to. And that's essentially where he goes there. So he says straight up that no, gay characters have to be played by gay actors. You can't have a straight actor doing that. Now, Eddie Redmayne was another one who a few years ago won an Academy Award for his role in the film The Danish Girl, where he played a transgender woman.
It was a crime, too.
Yeah.
Because he beat Michael Keaton for Birdman, and it was just like the worst. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we can definitely rant on that one in a second. But so he had an article a few years ago mimicking the same thing, saying that he was asked would he take that role now. Of course, after he was nominated for an Oscar for it, he said, "No, I wouldn't take it now. I made that film with the best intentions, but I think that it was a mistake." Now we end this one with Ian McKellen, who, as we all know, is a gay actor who came out years ago, but he came out against the idea. You didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so he came out against the idea that straight people can't play gay roles. Now, what he said in his film with the BBC years ago, he said, is the argument that a straight man cannot play a gay part? And if so, does that mean that I can't play straight parts? Am I not allowed to explore the fascinating subject of heterosexuality in Macbeth? Surely not. We're acting. We're pretending. There are two things: is the argument that a Gentile cannot play a Jew, and is the argument therefore that a Jew cannot play a Gentile. He said, now we're capable of understanding what it is to be Jewish. Are we going to convince the Jewish audience that we are Jewish? Perhaps we don't need to because we're just acting. So there you have an openly gay actor in Hollywood slamming the idea that you can't play something that you're if you're not exactly what the character is, because at the end of the day, Hollywood, you're pretending to be a role, you're pretending to be a character,
Exactly.
and you get awarded normally for your best portrayal of a character that you're pretending to be. So let's go ahead and just start with this one. I want to start with TW here. Do you agree with the idea or disagree with the idea that straight people can't play gay people in movies and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, I take Ewan McGellar's side. It's like I totally disagree with it. It's like it's just acting, dude. If you're willing to just like, I mean, hey, if you're comfortable, as a straight person kissing a gay guy just to make it believable, all right then. Like, yeah, because you're just acting, you're making the audience believe, and it makes you more versatile as an actor, to do such things. Now, you also should have the option to opt out of it if it's something you're not comfortable with, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, that choice should be there for like anybody who wants to for anybody that wants to do that shit. But I also can't help but notice that movie that Tom Hanks was in, I was thinking of the Family Guy sketch where Peter was in the movie theater, and it was like Tom Hanks was like, "I have AIDS," and then Peter's just hysterically laughing. I was like, "Oh shit, that's the movie! That's the fucking movie!"
Big. That's the movie. Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah,
I have
right.
He's like, "I have AIDS," and then he laughs.
Oh, that's great.
Well, keep in mind he's also the grandfather of White Boy Summer too, so you have to keep that in mind. We're talking about Tom Hanks as well. Rob, what do you think about what Tom said and basically the whole argument of straight people and gay people in the movies?
Yeah, so I've had this argument for like 7 years on film Twitter. There's all these people who want to back up that, oh, well, if you're not trans, you can't play a trans person, or if you're not gay, you can't play a gay person. And it's like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. That's saying that if an actor is not talent, like that's pushing the limits of your craft, of what you're able to do. And by the way, it also weirdly shoehorns in gay actors to only play gay roles. How is that not an insult? And I wonder how many like leading men are in the closet, and just again, they don't reveal that because it limits their financial opportunities, the roles they might get. I mean, Hollywood is a very weird place where they project all of these values, but really it's an incredibly conservative town where if you step outside their norm, it's like they look at you like you're a psychopath when, but I just think it's a ridiculous standard to have. It's like acting is about acting, not being, and that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, it's acting, not being. So I just think those comments are ridiculous, and it's like, who's paying you to say this shit, Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
might be just losing his mind.
That's who. Cassie, what do you think on this topic?
I mean, look, these people like Tom Hanks talk out of two sides of their mouth. If he says that, and then if you say, okay, that means gay people can't play straight people. Oh, no, that's not the case at all. You can't like, then it becomes a problem. But it's like these people just talk out of two sides of their mouth all the time. And it's like, just shut the fuck up already. Like, I'm tired of hearing I'm just sick of it. Like, and it's like, if that was the case, like, Ian McKellen was an amazing Magneto. The amount of sass he added to Magneto is like the most. That's what I go back to watch those movies for. Him to have his amazing one-liners in X-Men 2. Oh man! Now just imagine if he couldn't play that role because, oh well, he's a gay man portraying a straight male. Like that. I would be pissed. I would be pissed just to think that I can't have them sassy Magneto lines. Like, that was my favorite thing about those X-Men movies. And I mean, look, as long as the straight actors portraying a gay actor, the only thing I ask is, are they willing to take on all the requirements that meet the role's expectations? If they're not willing to do that, then no, of course, don't cast them. But if they're willing to accommodate things that they aren't used to in order to give an accurate portrayal that isn't limited in some sort of way, then like, yo, go for it. At the end of the day, I want to see talent And the problem is Hollywood wants to make everyone interchangeable. They'll use Tom Cruise because he makes the money, but do they really want the next Tom Cruise in Hollywood? No, because he has too much say. They don't want any of these actors to have say. They just want to be interchangeable losers that have nothing of value or uniqueness to bring to the table. That's what they want. And it's sad because now I lose interest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad the way that the whole thing goes off. I wanted to go to this one because this is something that I covered a few years back. If you remember, Bryan Cranston was in a movie called The Upside. It was a movie with Kevin Hart, if you recall, a few years back, where he played a quadriplegic in the film. Now, during the week of the promotion of this film, people were actually upset that Bryan Cranston played a quadriplegic because they wanted someone who was actually disabled to be in the role, right? So I think
here's the question though: when he played LBJ, did they want a real racist? You know, that would be my question. You know what I mean? Like how far? Yeah. Literally, how far do you go for that? Because it's so ridiculous. Like, me saying that is kind of a joke because it's like, well, of course not. But it's like that's the standard with that kind of ideology.
Exactly.
For real.
So he responded to this years ago, and he says that I think the cast being cast in a role of the quadriplegic really comes down to a business decision. We live in a society, in a world of criticism, and we're willing to get up and try something. We also have to be willing to take criticism. He said, as actors, we're asked to be other people, to play other people. If I as a straight older person and wealthy, very fortunate, does that mean that I can't play someone who's not wealthy? Does it mean I can't play someone who's homosexual? I don't know where does that restriction apply. Where's the line for that? I think it's a worthy debate to discuss as far as those issues go. Now, this was in response to people online saying that oh, he shouldn't have been playing that character. I think there was this person. Well, let me make sure that was him because I don't want to bury him if it wasn't him or not. Oh, so this person is making the argument that the reason why Cranston can't play a disabled person is because he's taking roles away from disabled actors, and in some cases, that disabled actors will never be able to play someone who's non-disabled. So by an able person playing a disabled person, you're taking roles away from them, which I guess is some kind of form of oppression in their mind. And even this guy says diversity without disability is not diversity; it's ableism. And you have to read, like, when you hear stuff like this, it's like, why do we even give any kind of power to like people like this who are just clearly just insane and out of it? It's like, why do we have to even acknowledge like these type of like silly arguments? It's like the reason why they cast Bryan Cranston is because he's a notable actor who's probably going to make a lot of money at the box office and get people interested to see the movie. If they just hire some nobody person in a wheelchair to play the role, not only they're not going to play it as effectively because the person is actually disabled, but I mean, who's gonna watch some regular disabled guy and Kevin Hart playing the film, right? Like you need to have that diversity there. And look, does that mean that some people won't be able to get roles? Yes, that means some people won't be able to get roles. That is of life. You don't always get what you want. Like we used to tell people that at a young age, that here we are having very, very silly arguments about stuff.
Here's the thing,
this.
though. They wouldn't get the roles anyway. You know why? Because it's like okay, the chance that they're as good of an actor as Bryan Cranston is, you know what I'm saying, while also being disabled is very low. You know, the chances of that happening are very low. And so it's like, it's a fantasy that these people are perpetuating. And it's like, I'm going to use whatever I can to get, opportunities or power. That's how, obviously how they look at it. But it's like, I understand trying to get whatever opportunities you can. That there's nothing wrong with that. But you're basically trying to leverage something because people feel guilty or feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. And then, of course, you also have those same people who will make excuses whenever you cast a minority as a traditionally white character. So it's like, especially like something like The Lord of the Rings, which that Amazon series that's coming out in a few months. You have so many minority characters in the Middle Earth setting. And then when people ask questions about that, they'll make excuses to be like, well, it's up for interpretation and blah, 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 and such and so on and so forth. But if it's someone who they don't don't like politically, or someone who doesn't fit the bill that they want, they'll be the first ones to say, well, if you're not in a wheelchair, you can't play a person in a wheelchair. If you're not gay, you can't play a gay person. There's no actual standard when it comes to these arguments anyway. So why are we entertaining them in the first place?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Any other thoughts about that one before we move on?
Nah.
Nope.
All right. Then, well, we do have
Spencer.
Spencer's here. You know, we talk about disabled people. We talk about disabled people, and then here's Spencer coming. So it's like it's almost on cue.
Oh my god, it's terrible.
All right, then. So we want to move on to the next topic. And did Spencer write this? Yeah, actually, Spencer did write this. So you actually came just in the perfect time. We got a little bit of time here, so let's talk about Ezra Miller. Now, Ezra Miller, it seems like we've talked about him for 3 straight weeks because every single week that we talk about him, something else happens the very next week that we have to bring him up again. But somehow the situation has gotten even worse for Ezra Miller, and apparently now he's on the run. Now, I don't know if there's actually a warrant out for his arrest, but there are people who at least want to speak with him, and no one can seem to find him anywhere right now because
oh boy,
there's been more allegations that the girl that we were talking about last week, the 12-year-old who's now 18, who's a communist transgender person now, after spending time with Ezra Miller, now apparently there's other women involved as well. So let's talk about this story here, which Spencer wrote for Bounding in the Comics. Ezra Miller deletes his Instagram after taunting authorities with a photo that said, "You can't touch me, I'm in another universe." So we're at the point now where Ezra Miller is probably about like rigging a building to explode away from him being a true Batman villain. Like I know that's been like the running joke the last few weeks, but he's starting to get there. Like now it's starting to get like more and more serious. So yeah, Spencer pointed here. He's now wanted in both U.S. and tribal courts. Like this is how serious it is getting right now. And he also says that no warrant for the arrest, but 2 courts are trying to serve him with orders to stay away from the accusers, and they can't find him. So basically just getting into the story here. We talked about this last week with the girl from the reservation that, the parents are saying that, he corrupted their daughter with cult-like tactics. Now, that girl is 18 years old, and like I said, it's going to be very hard for them to, I guess, pursue anything at the moment with her being of adult age. But that isn't the only woman that we're dealing with right now. Let me go down here to... Let me see. I think I just lost it, or just like okay. So this is what Ezra Miller screenshot. This is the picture right here that says, "You can't touch me. I'm in another universe." And I think there was a couple of other ones on here as well. So he posted this one, basically a meme saying that him and then people that are trying to deliver him headaches and whatnot. There's another series here. It said that I'm shielded from negative people at their ill intent, and my spirit, my mind, my body, soul, success are not altered by anyone's child. I are protected from all negative people and attempt to dethrone them subconsciously, consciously, and clear any of all Pickle's peers who have said who are hidden enemies. And then he posted this one. He says, "Me remembering how nice I was. When should I have said who the fuck are you talking to?" So now he's low-key making threats, I guess. And then here's another message from another dimension. Now keep in mind, he posted all these messages where the police were like literally like trying to find him or to serve him for papers for his alleged activities. So I actually want to see if I can get Spencer on for a second to talk about this one because this is his story, so he would know a little bit more about it. But let me go ahead and just go to you guys. What do you guys think of Ezra Miller, the never-ending soap opera, as it seems to be? Like he's always something new this week versus the last week. And I also want to talk to you about his status in the DCEU moving forward. But Cassie, let's start with you. Well, what do you think about this week's episode of Ezra Miller?
At this point, I blame the police for all this because if it was a normal, everyday person, this wouldn't have gone as far as it does. Clearly, his star power has allowed this to go as far as it has. Clearly, if it was any normal person like you or me doing some crazy nonsense like this, we'd have warrants and all types of stuff. We'd probably be shot by the police. Let's be real now, because I don't, when it comes to the government, we already know how I feel about how stupid government is, but
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
wouldn't even.
you know, just be consistent. Why isn't there a warrant for this dude's arrest? Like, how much more shit needs to be compiled to say, well, maybe this guy really shouldn't be on the streets. Maybe he needs to be detained.
Maybe he needs to be locked up, penitentiary.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe and maybe we should at least take this seriously, because at this point it's like it's a joke and he's throwing it in their face and they deserve it. Honestly, the way he's acting, the police deserve it, because really he's gotten this far and they still ain't caught him. He's making fun of them. I would too. They're a joke. And not don't get me wrong. He is a piece of shit. No doubt about it. But it's a piece of shit making the people that are supposed to be like the authority figures look like the jokes that they are. I mean, they both deserve it.
I mean, I kind of feel bad for Toby Emmerich, who is the head of development at Warner Brothers, because you're in a situation like this, and not really, I don't feel bad for him. But basically, like he's basically like, I have this fucking problem and I have to get rid of it, but can we get the Flash movie out first? Can we please have no more hiccups and let me not lose any money on this Flash movie so we don't have to like shit can it? So no, and that's just my way of saying, like, I can't imagine the headache this causes people whose job it is to keep tabs on it, to make sure that he's not completely, out of his gourd. But it's just like, he's done so many things. Like when it first happened, like he hit a girl, like a fan that wanted a picture with him. Like this was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. And I was like, oh, it's probably nothing. It probably got inflated or something. But there's been these like 5 or 6 instances where his behavior has just been like.
Not only that, but it seems like it's escalating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it seems like we're stepping up. Like he went from like hitting a girl at a bar, then he was like he apparently choked another girl at another location.
He's like non-binary too now. Like I don't know when that started. I don't know. There was also this interview that came out on Twitter. That it didn't come out, but I saw it resurface this week with Gal Gadot. Like they were doing some interview for Justice League.
I know that.
And it was it was like about how like he wanted to get her to say like how basically like the world of men's awful, like kind of thing. Like and she just wouldn't do it. So it was a very weird interview. And
I saw that video when it happened like years ago, and that was when I was like, okay, there's clearly something wrong with this dude. I don't know why you would cast him in the role of the Flash, but like I said, it's Hollywood, it's progressive. So at the time you're like, okay, whatever, this is the guy that they want. But now you're starting to see that they regret that decision. Now, before I get back to the movies, I want to get TW's thoughts on this whole thing with Ezra Miller.
Yeah, this dude's a bona fide freak, man. I know Alcatraz has been abandoned for several years, but make this dude the only fucking prisoner in Alcatraz. You don't even need to have guards there. Just leave him there to starve, lock him in a cell. Just have him be fed to the rats. He's a certified damn freak who is literally, like Cassie said, by his star power getting away with it, because I'm not even like committing like a fourth of the crimes, my black ass would have been fucking just like shot immediately. Not even like, even if I was in his position, it's just like, hey, come here. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's like I haven't even gone out the damn door yet, and you're just looking for a reason to arrest me. But at least on in terms of the Flash, I don't know. It's like, is his role as the Flash really even memorable? I'm like, you can get somebody else to play that role.
So I talked about this.
Going into this.
I was on Culture Casino's show on last Sunday, and if you go to Culture Casino, follow his channel. I'll link it for you guys later on as well, because the great content every day. But essentially, the problem that Warner Brothers has with Ezra Miller right now is that the Flash movie that's been pushed back like 5 or 6 times, mostly because of his actions. That movie's already in the can. And not only is that movie already in the can, they've already based like the next 3 or 4 DC movies moving forward based off that movie. So something happens in this Flash movie that's coming up that's supposed to change the entire direction of the DCEU moving forward. And they've already based future content both on HBO Max and in the theaters based on this movie. So the reason why Warner Brothers can't just cut ties with him right now is because they literally built the entire back of the DCEU moving forward on Ezra Miller, which means that if this situation continues to escalate, and we already have one girl who he is allegedly groomed at the age of 12, now we have another girl that's alleging misconduct on a 12-year-old girl, and now the parents are trying to serve him restraining orders against her. This is how bad things have gotten. They're going to have to make a decision to either recast him, but if they do make the decision to recast him, they have to essentially reshoot the entire Flash movie and then reshoot all the other stuff that they've already put into. So it's not even just like one movie and the reshot and then they're done. They have to reshoot about 3 or 4 other projects as well. And if they can't do that, they would essentially have to go, you know what? Everything that we're doing right now, scrap it. Scrap Batgirl, scrap Supergirl, scrap the Aquaman.
Do it.
They will have to blow everything up. Now, Discovery is coming in, and they are blowing a lot of things up right now. Mm-hmm. So it's a question whether are they willing to blow up the movie franchise? Because I mean, at this point, they already have hundreds of millions of dollars invested to movies and projects that we haven't even seen yet. For them to just really go, okay, we're just gonna have to eat the bullet and move forward because we can't move forward with all of this. Now, David Zaslav may do that, but that would be a huge loss for them. It wouldn't be them saving money; it would be them losing money. So this is the reason why DC is still moving forward with Ezra Miller, or at least they haven't publicly said that that they're going to get rid of him or they're moving forward with him, because he's literally the backbone of like their next like 4 or 5 projects. And like I said, they're just absolutely screwed. And you have to think to yourself too, this is a company that is trying to push Henry Cavill out the door. Ben Affleck is pretty much already gone as Batman, whether officially or unofficially. They're trying to get him back for like a couple of scenes for the other movie, but it's like, what are you going to do at this point? He's pretty much gone. Who else do you have outside of him? You have Gal Gadot, who just did a terrible Wonder Woman movie, and people are already turning against her because she's Israeli. And then the only other character you have left is Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I mean...
Ray Fisher. Hey, you got Ray Fisher, who's been constantly bad-mouthing DC as well.
Yeah, exactly, right.
And I just want to say this. There's nobody that will rail against the comic book movie, intellectual property movie as much as I will. However, the great irony of this is I am a lifelong Batman fan. I grew up with Tim Burton's 1989 Batman movie. But I'm kind of a closet Batman fan in terms of like the more recent movies post Christopher Nolan, because like I understand what people mean when they say Zack Snyder's not a good director. However, he has an incredible vision for like the image, the composition. I thought his Justice League, that 4-hour Justice League, I really loved it. I thought it was incredible. But again, it's like, I'm not going to argue with Marvel fanboys on Twitter about that, but and I can understand why some people are just like, well, it's a mess. It's 4 hours long. You needed to edit it more, blah blah blah. So, so I'm kind of a closet DCEU fan. Like, I wouldn't mind to see them doing well, but they did all this to themselves. They didn't let Zack Snyder have his vision. Really, they're pushing Superman out the door. Gal Gadot's right. Your second movie was crap, and Aquaman is just kind of like whatever. So, And now with the Flash, he's a mess. So it's like your entire roster is kind of fucked right now, and I don't understand how they're developing any of these things, because the things they're based on haven't succeeded enough the way I guess like the MCU did in the early days. So we'll see, but it looks like a train wreck right now.
Imagine how low-key pro-police Warner Brothers must be right now. Please stop this fucking guy. Just stop him.
Yeah, literally stop him. He's ruining all of our movies.
Exactly.
So there was a rumor that that DC was trying to push Zack Snyder out, and obviously like change the direction of the Snyderverse because they wanted to bring in Christina Dobson. Now, Christina Dobson is the woman who wrote the Flash movie, and she's also wrote the Batgirl series, which was supposed to come out on HBO Max, but I think they're going to do a theater release for that one as well. But like I said, here's the problem: they can't move forward with that one until they release the Flash, and they don't even know what they're going to do with the Flash movie now. So So not only is Ezra Miller ruining all of DC, he's also ruining Christina Dobson's future of taking over this franchise, because they may have to scrap everything that she did even before it comes out just because of Ezra Miller and his actions. So that just goes to show you just like a complete clusterfuck shit show that Ezra Miller and everything is happening. And then Spencer mentioned it earlier with Amber Heard. It's like there's another one in that whole DC Warner Brothers universe. So it's like I said earlier, like who's hiring these people? Like, who's hiring these people? You're hiring someone to run a subway and they're burning the joint to the ground.
Yeah.
Like,
and one thing I wanted to
go
say.
ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. One thing I wanted to say before Rob got his point in. Like, yeah, I mean, if they're gonna have to blow up the whole thing and start over, I mean, it's a huge loss, but that's a sacrifice they might just have to take, man. Plus, I know I'm gonna make some Flash fans mad, but why the fuck are we basing movies on the Flash? The Flash of the Justice League?
Yeah, he's the main
fucking
character in the
Flash.
Justice
When
League.
has the Flash gotten so? When did the Flash get so special?
I will say there's some comic book storylines where the Flash's abilities do play a key role in changing some serious things. But yeah, I do get where you're coming from as well in terms of star power. They should work on getting their key characters right first, like Superman.
Well, if they do blow it up, here's the thing about the Flash. There's 3 of them. You know, there's Barry Allen, there's Wally West, and there's Grant Gustin. So like with what is it? I'm trying to think. The Green Lantern. I think there's 3 of those. So it's Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, and John something. But yeah, it's like there's multiple variations of different characters, even, which is kind of why I love Batman, because it's just Bruce Wayne. You know, Superman is Clark Kent, whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's and that's the A roster for DC. And I'm sorry, that's really who you should be. If you're gonna do Justice League movies, do a Batman and Superman movie where they team up or something. Yeah. But these secondary and tertiary characters that basically nobody outside diehard fans care about: Green Lantern, Green Arrow, The Flash, Martian Manhunter, Cyborg. I mean, nobody cares about these characters. Seriously, I have a closet full of graphic novels, and I'm like, yeah, they're okay, but
yeah. And like I said, let's be honest. I know that Warner Brothers don't want to blow this thing up just because of the headache that it ensues, that just basically burning hundreds of millions of dollars into the ground that you're never going to get back. But let's be honest. Who's really excited for Ezra Miller Flash? Who's really excited for Batgirl? Who's really excited for Supergirl? Who's really excited for Aquaman 2? Like,
other than these stories coming out about this freak Ezra Miller, I knew nothing about his role as the Flash. Like, nothing.
Yeah,
I didn't even know who he was.
Like I said, I mean, this whole thing's a mess. You know my take, especially when it comes to comic book movies. I would blow it up with TNT, but obviously Warner Brothers have a little bit more at stake. But then again, this is their own fault for going with Ezra Miller in the first place. So, any other final thoughts on Ezra Miller before we go to our final topic?
I've said everything I need to say.
I'm just wondering what Looney Tunes shit show is next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the next exciting episode of Ezra Miller fucking up.
And next week is going to be him driving down LA in a white Bronco, being chased by the cops.
We didn't even talk about his run-in with the cops, where he's just like, where he threw that "I'm not a man" kind of bullshit at the cops that was like interfering with.
That's another thing too. Like a lot of these like places, like I give a little bit of credit to the Daily Beast. I guess is obviously like a far left progressive outlet for at least covering like the thing with Ezra Miller. But even they had to be like, well, his pronouns are like they them. It's like he's alleged of like a multitude of crimes, most of them involving minor. Are we really worried about his pronouns right now at a time like this? Like, okay, can we put a little thing into perspective?
Big picture.
There's something in the water over there.
Yeah, and then you're trying to like read these articles, and they all refer to him in like the third person, and it's like, what are we doing here, people? All right, then. Well, we're at our closer for the day, and our closer is a movie that I unfortunately watched last night, a movie that put me to sleep, and a movie that caused actor Chris Evans to call everyone in the Middle East idiots who are going to die like the dinosaurs. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about no other than Lightyear. Chris Evans is the new Buzz Lightyear. He has replaced Tim Allen, and he believes that if you have a problem with the gay kiss in the Lightyear movie, then you're an idiot who's going to die off like the dinosaurs. Now, he said this ironically right after his movie was banned in multiple Middle Eastern outlets. So to kind of explain to you what happened here, obviously Chris Evans replaced Tim Allen as the voice of Lightyear. They did a solo movie regarding the film, but there was a huge argument and debate internally within Disney about whether they were going to keep a scene that showed one of the characters having a same-sex kiss with her wife in the film. And there was initially Disney was going to remove that scene altogether because obviously there was going to lose a lot of markets if they kept the scene in. But after Rob DeSantis passed the Florida parental bill, which banned the teaching of gender ideology and transgenderism to kindergartners in third grade, the bill that the left calls the "Don't Say Gay" bill, Disney decided to add the scene back into the movie. So as a result, the film got banned in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Kuwait, Qatar, China, Malaysia, and Indonesia, multiple countries. So there was a lot of countries that clearly did not like the fact that that scene was put into the movie, and it caused a lot of uproar. Well, about a day after those countries banned the film, Chris Evans did an interview talking about the backlash regarding that scene. And here's what he had to say about that scene. He said, "The real truth is those people are idiots. There are always going to be people who are afraid and unaware of trying to hold on to what was before. Those people will die off like the dinosaurs," Chris Evans said in an interview with Reuters. He said, "The goal is to pay them no mind, march forward, embrace growth, and what makes us human." So he continued by expressing his frustration about the scene and about the scene causing so many problems overseas. Is that it's tough to not be a little frustrated that even the topic has to be a topic of discussion. The goal is that we can get to a point where it is the norm, that we don't have to have some uncharted waters, that eventually they'll just be this way, that representation across the board is how we make films. Now, obviously, if you guys don't know, Chris Evans is a very outspoken, progressive actor. Y'all know him for playing Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But he's known over the last few years on Twitter for attacking Donald Trump, for attacking many Republicans over the years. There's plenty of articles where he slammed Republicans, where he slammed the Trump administration on many incidents. So he talked about him being so outspoken on social media against pretty much half the country. And he said that in an interview that you don't want to alienate half of your audience, but I'd be disappointed in myself if I didn't speak up, especially for the fear of monetary repercussions or career damage. That just feels really gross to me. Now, as of this was earlier this week when I wrote this, Lightyear was supposed to have a release in the UAE. That release has now been canceled. And the Office of Ministry and Youth Culture in the Emirates said that the movie has not been licensed for a public screening in the country due to its violation of media content standards. Now, in Malaysia, the largest movie chain in the country, GSC, tweeted "No Beyond," saying that they will not be showing the movie in their country. And obviously, that goes to show that there's also major restrictions in Saudi Arabia, mostly due to its depiction of homosexuality on screen and its depiction of gods and prophets and things of that nature. Now, Saudi Arabia has also banned movies like West Side Story, Doctor Strange 2, and Eternals for similar reasons. And China has not released it for similar reasons as well.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and just talk about what Chris Evans said, then I'll go back to the Tim Allen portion of this first. So I want to get you guys' thoughts. What do you think of Chris Evans essentially slamming everyone in the Middle East for having a problem with the same-sex scene in the film? I want to start off with Cassie and go around. So, yeah, Chris Evans.
Chris Evans is just a couch-sitting, tweeting activist that really, it's just, my question to him is, well, if you really believe in this, why don't you just go to Saudi Arabia and protest about same-sex marriage and all that? If you really believe that, because in our history, there has been plenty of people that chose to be martyrs for things that they truly believed in. So, you could sit on your couch like a couch fucking potato and tweet about this and that and how bad and evil these people are and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, do you really believe in any shit that you're saying? It's just, you're just trying to go with the crowd. At the end of the day, all these people care about is money and his film that he's a part of isn't being shown in multiple countries. So, that decreases their revenue stream. And it's just pathetic that this is the type of person that thinks that everyone should be accepted, but he won't accept the fact that there are just countries that are different from his country, and he won't respect that. He actually wants these people to die. That's what it sounds like to me, arguably. I mean, just because they have a different culture. I mean, I asked my best friend about it, who's Muslim, and she said, and she's just a regular person. She doesn't get involved in politics. She just is your regular average person that stays out of the politics, just wants to live her life. And she just says, I wish that all actors would just shut the fuck up about their political beliefs and just make movies.
Yeah. TW, what do you think of it?
Oh, man. These motherfuckers just need some hobbies. Go do something. Play some tennis. Play some tennis. Get in an orgy. Fucking, I don't know.
Well, it's Hollywood. I think they do that anyway.
Exercise or something. Like, bro, come on. Bro, if I was out there and had those types of opportunities, I'd be active as shit right now. But, I mean, being where I'm at, I'm like, bro, I'd be doing the same thing Chris Evans is doing, but I'm not even doing that.
Yeah.
I never knew this guy was such an outspoken liberal, though. That's new to me.
Yeah.
He's been like this for years, so it's not a new development. So
TDS
and then that was
10.
And I want to talk about that in a second too. Once we get to Rob about the Tim Allen thing, but Rob, what do you think about his comments about saying that if you don't like the same-sex kiss in the children's film, by the way, that there's something wrong with you?
Well, I'm a little I don't know. I don't like censorship at all. Okay, like I'm actually like I'm pretty much against it in any form. So while I might definitely agree that its placement in a children's film is certainly an interesting creative choice, like that certainly brings up questions. I never want to support anybody saying you can't see this because that's weird. But when it comes to his comments, it's ridiculously ignorant and naive. And for somebody that constantly preaches diversity and, caring, wanting people of all walks of life and all shapes and sizes and different viewpoints to come together and share a space or something, it's like, you're pretty ignorant of what other people believe, and, that it's very funny how that butts up against the sort of political ideology that's constantly spouted by these people.
Yep. And then I want to bring this point up too before we jump over to the Tim Allen portion, because there is a portion of that I want to cover as well. But after Evans made these comments, the projections of Lightyear went down. Now, it was originally expected to do $80 million at the local box office here in the United States. Well, after a soft opening on Thursday, those projections went down from 80 to 60. And now they're projecting they could do under $60 million as well. Now, Scott Middleton talked about this on Twitter, basically saying how they could do under $60 million. But of course, he tried to softball it by saying, well, it had nothing to do with the controversy regarding the kiss or anything like that. But that's saying, well, but when you're essentially slamming people for having a problem with a scene in a movie that they haven't even seen yet, in a time of hyperinflation and record gas prices, that's something that will motivate people to be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go spend $120 at the movie theater to go watch this film with my family. Maybe I'll just stay home and watch something else.
They would have done. They would have if he didn't say anything, right? Let's say that Chris Evans doesn't even do the interview. It would have been better. Because he brought awareness to this thing. It could have just been under the radar. The United Arab Emirates, these people aren't going to show it in their country. But he gave an interview to kind of be like, I had to say something. I would feel gross. It's like, well, wait a minute. You were probably paid to give this interview by whoever, Pixar? Is that
exactly.
To sort of
the
maybe
press thing.
To combat it, and it was like, it didn't do you any favors, because I saw a report that said it's supposed to hit 133 million. Now it's probably going to be a lot lower than that. So, I think I saw Friday take was only 23 million and Thursdays was only 5. So it's only made 28 million before. I mean, we're not at the weekend yet, so we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. But
Yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like not only just like his answer, but like I say, he could have put it in a much like different light. Could have said, "Well, it's unfortunate that some people feel this way, but I feel strongly about the film and I feel strongly about the scene. So I mean, people are up to make their own decisions about it." But he went as far as to say, "Yeah, no, you're an idiot if you have a problem with this, and you'll probably die off like the dinosaurs." Which is like that's a great quote that you want on there on the week that you want people to bring their families to go watch this movie. Because I mean. You're talking about like we're not talking about just like one guy going out on like a Thursday and watching a movie. It's like this is a kids' film, so that means that parents that already work hard throughout the week and are already getting screwed over with inflation and the stock market and everything are going to have to pony up $100 to take their kids to the movie theater. They got to put gas in their car. They're paying $5 a gallon right now to drive to the movie so they can watch a movie of an entitled actor that said that they're going to die like the dinosaurs if you don't like this gay kiss in the film. It's like. There's absolutely no self-awareness with these people whatsoever.
Remember that Chris Evans, like one of his big first starring roles was in Not Another Teen Movie.
Dude, I was
and what's funny is a couple years later, a movie I went to see in the theaters called The Perfect Score had Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson as like as teenagers, high school students stealing the SAT, and it's just like I just remember that stuff whenever like Chris Evans says something pompous and ridiculous. It's like, dude. You are absolutely nowhere, and just because you're Captain America, like whatever, man. It's so irrelevant.
I was just like, bro, I was just about to say that too. Because I was just like, dude, this was the guy in like Not Another. I remember from like Not Another Teen Movie was just like the happy-go-lucky douchey jock.
Yeah,
like where's that?
The Freddie Prinze Jr. clone,
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, the fact that they got this guy out of all people to play the most patriotic superhero in arguably all of comics, goes to show you a lot. But I want to hit up one last point here, and it's about Tim Allen. Now, Patricia Heaton, as you know from Everyone Loves Raymond, went on Twitter earlier this week and talked about the fact that Disney replaced Tim Allen because obviously, as we all know, Tim Allen is a conservative. And his political opinions don't really line up with what modern day Disney is, which is arguably one of the reasons why they replaced him with Chris Evans. Well, Patricia Heaton went on Twitter with a couple of tweets, and she said that she saw the trailer for a Buzz Lightyear, and all she has to say is that Disney and Pixar made a huge mistake by not casting Tim Allen in the role, which he originated. And then the role that he owns, he is Buzz Lightyear. Why would they completely castrate an iconic, beloved character? And she went a second tweet here. I believe there was a second tweet. Maybe it got removed on here.
Oh.
Is that it?
Oh, it said, why remove the one element? Yeah, here it is. I think I just added the wrong tweet on there. But she said, why remove the one element that people wanted to see? But hashtag stupid Hollywood decision. So she pretty much attacks Pixar for recasting Tim Allen in the first place. Yeah, so what do you guys think about them doing a Buzz Lightyear movie without the voice of Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen? Do you think that also hurt the movie?
Definitely. Because for most people who like me, who grew up with Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear, like they're gonna like look at this movie and like as soon as Buzz even speaks, I'm like, oh, what fresh hell is this? Mm-hmm. This is not the Buzz Lightyear I remember. This is bullshit.
Yeah. And in the film, he's basically doing like his best Tim Allen impersonation as far as the voice goes, which begs the question: why didn't you just get Tim Allen? But I think we already know the answer to that question. Cassie, what do you think about the Tim Allen not being in the movie?
It dissuaded me from even wanting to see it. If it's not Tim Allen, I don't give a fuck. Period. Exactly. I mean, Chris Evans being typical dickface Chris Evans is just icing on the cake at this point.
Yeah.
Yep. Rob, what do you think?
And I have not seen an animated movie since I can't remember, over 20 years. And I haven't seen a Toy Story movie since the first one came out and I was 6 years old. So I have no investment in this, but that does not bode well for a movie I'm gonna go see tomorrow. Just to be able to review it, and I just have no relationship to it. But I think that people on Twitter were saying Chris Evans, it's not a big deal because they're bringing back Tim Allen for the Santa Claus series on Disney Plus or something. in like a
Yeah.
couple months.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't think that a streaming like TV series really compares to like a well-known franchise
Not
character
at all.
in terms of money and monetary value and
Yeah.
what that, you know, in terms of having a lasting impact in the culture. But you know, it's just like it's unfortunate because the fans wanted Tim Allen to be in that role, and they kind of deprived them of that.
Yep, I agree 100%. Like I said, no, like I said, I think we all kind of know why it happened. But look, at the end of the day, everyone knows that Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear. Tom Hanks is the voice of
Always
Woody,
will be.
and you can't change that. And trying to change that, and maybe that's the reason why this film is possibly. I wouldn't say it's going to flop because it'll probably end up at least breaking even, but it won't be as big as a financial success that it should have been because this is a movie that they spent $200 million on just on production alone. So a movie like that's probably gonna have to make like $500 million just to break even. So they'll probably get a little bit past the break even point, but not exactly what you're expecting out of the Toy Story franchise film. Just put it that way. Well, any last thoughts about that one?
Nah, I said what I needed to say.
All right, then. Well, we just hit the 2-hour mark, so I'm surprised we got a lot of covered into that 2-hour period. So
Tell me about it.
Go ahead and give some of the closing arguments here. I'm gonna let you guys promote some of your stuff, and then I want to do one more special thing before we wrap it up. But I'll start with TW. Give the chance to promote yourself. What you got coming up in the next week?
All right. I put out today. I put out a review on the Look at Me, the XXX Tentacion story on YouTube. Feel free to check that out. It's going to be the same schedule for the streams. Like Monday, Booty Hunter stream, Tuesday. Tuesday, the reacting, but this time to the 2000s music because we already reacted to the 2010s. And on Wednesday, I just downloaded, but I'm going to wait till Wednesday to actually start playing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. So
yes, I hear a lot of good things about that game too.
Oh yeah,
it basically looks like an old arcade style, like the Super Nintendo type game.
Exactly. So, I just downloaded it off Game Pass, but I haven't even touched it yet. I'm waiting until Wednesday.
Yeah,
I haven't even launched it yet.
I might have to check that one out on Steam. Mr. Rob Motto, tell us what you're going to be up to.
You can catch me on Twitter. You can see my handle down there. I mostly talk about movies. I'll wade into social issues here and there, but I mostly stick to movies. I'm going to be watching Lightyear this weekend and Spiderhead on Netflix, be reviewing them on Monday's stream with Society Reviews. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm just trying to get back into doing more movie reviews more often. So looking forward to it.
Nice.
All right, cool. And then, of course, last but not least, I don't want to call you the face that runs the place. That's Josh's moniker. So we'll find something.
Missing Josh tonight, but I appreciated it. But I've been Twitch streaming a lot. I definitely want to play TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles new game. That's pretty much the most hyped game I've been waiting for, and I might play it with some of my friends on stream because they're older than me and they're even more into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than I am. So they're hyped. I'm hyped. I think it'll be a good stream just for all of us to enjoy some playing games that we love to see. And the fact that game came back is it's just it's like childhood returning for a lot of people. So I love to see it.
Yep.
And I stream a variety of games over on Twitch. You can follow me there, Cult Classic Cage. I make YouTube videos, mostly talking about games, sometimes movies. So June is a big month for gaming. So anything that drops that I'm interested in, I think looks sick, I'm going to talk about it. And if you just want to talk to me, you can follow me over on Twitter. You just search Cult Classic Cage, and that's where you'll find me.
All right, then. And then I want to tell you guys some of the things that I'll be working on. SocietyReviews.com, where I post all of my reviews. You can pretty much catch all of our archive stuff on SocietyReviews.com. I'm going to be spending the entire weekend doing a massive site management. I got a lot of quality control things to work on to improve the site. So that's going to take over my whole weekend. But if you're watching this on Twitch already, stay tuned to Twitch because I got a whole bunch of stuff backlogged on my Google Drive, and I might just, show it on Twitch to pass the time while I'm working. So if you're on Twitch, stick with that one. Tomorrow night, on Twitch, Twitch exclusive. So if you watch this on YouTube, you won't be able to see it on YouTube, but you will be able to see it on Twitch. We'll be doing the Wheel of Morality again to decide what movie we're going to be watching on movie night. And I decided to surprise some of you guys because I brought the wheel with me right here tonight.
Oh.
As you can see here, there are 10 movies on this wheel, so let me just go ahead and show you what we have on here. We'll be watching one of these 10 movies tomorrow night. It'll be either Twister, 1996, Overboard, 87, Jawbreakers, 99, Trimmers, 1990, Cube, 1997, The Faculty, 1998, Roadhouse, 1989, Stand By Me, 1986, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, 1988, and Nighthawks, 1981. So, since you guys are here right now, do you want us to just go ahead and spin the wheel so you guys can figure out what you guys are going to be watching tomorrow night?
Yeah, why not?
Let's
Let's
do
go
it.
for it.
Fuck it. Let's do it. Let's spin it. And this one's going to be official, so.
All right.
And the movie is going to be. Oh, wow. Okay, then. So, I know what movie we're going to be watching tomorrow night.
No.
These guys won't find out until tomorrow.
Okay.
No.
But we will be watching the film tomorrow night on Twitch, exclusively on Twitch at 10 p.m. Saturday. So if you go over there, follow us on Twitch, you'll see that one tomorrow night. And then Monday, I'll be back with Rob Martle. We'll be reviewing Buzz Lightyear and Spiderhead tomorrow with Rick Angorn. Monday with Rick Angorn. And then Wednesday will be the Black Pill stream. Myself and Spencer will probably be us two running the show again next week. So a lot of things coming up. So check us out, sidereviews.com, Side Reviews Twitch, YouTube, Bounding in the Comics. Check us out there as well. So I wanted to talk to you guys for a little bit, but for the rest of you guys, we will see you next week, next Friday night, Barroom Podcast. We'll see you then. Thanks for joining us.